you, Octavia. We've had just a ball on this tour. We're a little winded. This is probably the, gosh, I don't know, 15th, 16th bookstore, but we haven't seen a crowd like this, so we're very honored that you're all here. So, the first scene that we're going to read tonight is also the first chapter of the book, and Octavia is going to read in the voice of Aibileen.
Aibileen, Jackson, Mississippi, 1962. May Mobley was born on an early Sunday morning in August 1960. A church baby, we like to call it. Taking care of white babies. That's what I do, along with all the cooking and the cleaning. I done raised 17 kids in my lifetime. I know how to get them babies to sleep, stop crying, and go in the toilet bowl before their mamas even get out of bed in the morning. But I ain't never seen a baby yell like May Mobley Leafold. First day I walk in the door, there she be red hot and hollering with the colic, fighting that bottle like it's a rotten turnip. Miss Leafold, she looked terrified of her own child. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I stop it? That was my first hint. Something is wrong with this situation. So I took that pink, screaming baby in my arms, bounced on my hip to get the gas moving. And it don't take 2 minutes before baby girl stopped crying, got to smiling up at me like she do. But Miss Leafold, she don't pick up her own baby for the rest of the day. Now, I've seen plenty of women get the baby blues after they done birthing. I reckon I thought that's what it was. By the time she a year old, May Mobley followed me around everywhere I go. 5 o'clock would come around and she'd be hanging on my doctor's shoe, dragging all over the floor, crying like I was never coming back. Miss Leafold, she'd narrow up her eyes at me like I'd done something wrong. Unhitch that crying baby off my foot. I reckon that's the risk you run, letting somebody else raise your chillins.
Before I was born, and before any of my 4 brothers and sisters were born, and my father was 14, a woman named Dimitri came to wait on my grandmother, and she worked for our family for the next 32 years, from 7 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 days a week. And I didn't think this was anything out of the ordinary. Everybody in my neighborhood had a black domestic coming in their home, cleaning up their kitchen, taking care of the kids. And in just about every case that I knew of, they considered her a very important and close part of their family. I moved to New York when I was 23, and that is when I began to realize that I had actually had a rather unique upbringing compared to the rest of the world. Dimitri had a profound effect on my childhood. She went out of her way to make sure that I knew, in her eyes at least, that I was okay. I started writing The Help because I wanted to hear Dimitri's voice again. And for the first time in my life, I had started to wonder what life must have been like for her. The scene that we're going to read next is in the voice of Skeeter, whose childhood housekeeper, Constantine, also had a profound effect on Skeeter's life. The first time I was ever called ugly, I was 13. It was a rich friend of my brother Carlton's over to shoot guns in the field. Constantine found me crying in the kitchen.
Why are you crying, girl?
I told her what the boy had called me with tears streaming down my face.
Now you look at here, Skeeter. Ugly live up on the inside. Ugly be a hurtful, mean person.
Constantine sat down next to me at the kitchen table, I heard the cracking of her swollen joints. She pressed her thumb hard in the palm of my hand, something we both knew meant listen. You listen to me.
Every morning until you dead in the ground, you're going to have to make this decision. You're going to have to ask yourself, am I going to believe what them fools say about me today?
She kept her thumb pressed hard in my hand, and I nodded that I understood. I was just smart enough to realize that for her, she meant white people. And even though I still felt miserable and knew that I was, most likely, ugly, it was the first time she ever talked to me like I was something besides my mother's white child. All my life I've been told what to believe about politics, colors, being a girl. But with Constantine's thumb pressed in my hand, I realized I actually had a choice in what I could believe. By 16, I wasn't just not pretty, I was painfully tall. The kind of tall that puts a girl in the back row of class pictures with the boys. The kind of tall where your mother spends her night taking down hymns, yanking at sweater sleeves, flattening your hair for dances you hadn't even been asked to. Finally pressing the top of your head as if she could shrink you back to the years when she had to remind you to stand up straight. By the time I was 17, Mother would rather I suffered from apoplectic diarrhea than stand up straight. She was 5'4" and first runner-up to Miss South Carolina. She decided there was only one thing to do in a case like mine. Mrs. Charlotte Phelan's Guide to Husband Hunting, rule number 1. A pretty petite girl should accentuate with makeup and good posture. A tall, plain one with a trust fund. I was 5'11", but I had 25,000 cotton dollars in my name, and if the beauty in that wasn't apparent, then by God, he wasn't smart enough to be in the family anyway.
Well, now that you guys have met me, kind of really haven't seen my personality yet, and I hope you don't have to. But the funny thing is when Kathryn told me that Minnie was based on me, I had to let her in on a secret. Minnie was my mother. My mom was about 4'9", chubby, and a pint of dynamite. And she was a maid in Montgomery, Alabama, and Kathryn had no idea. And she put the fear of God in us, and she put the fear of God in mostly many of the people that she came in contact with. It was usually the white women that she worked for. So needless to say, I knew Minnie really well.
Minnie was the character that I absolutely had the most fun writing. She is short, she is sassy, and she is constantly mouthing off to whatever white woman she's working for. If Minnie's thinking it, Minnie's saying it.